Hi, this is Joe Rabil from Rabil Stock Research with your Daily 5. On today's show, I'll go through 5 stocks showing really good qualities based on trend and momentum in multiple time frames. I like to combine MACD, ADX, and relative strength to find stocks with potential to move higher over, say, the next 3 to 6 months. Let's get started on the 5. Now, I have the 5 stocks. I do want to start with the S&P, but only for one specific reason. I want us to kind of focus in on this decline phase for the market here. And this is a different way of looking at relative strength. So we peaked at the beginning of the year, made a move to the downside, rallied up, made another new low in June, and then rallied up, and now has made another new low on this last drop. So what I'm trying to find are stocks that are being resilient. If they haven't made a new low since back here, that's great. But I definitely want to try and find stocks that are showing signs where there's resilience in place, especially on this last bottom. Now, I'm going to start going through. The first one actually did go to a minor new low. It was more like a sideways pattern and really has just been going sideways for the whole year after peaking. So this is ABBV to start. Now, what I want to point out is that we've got this really strong trend on the monthly, very good momentum characteristics when I look at MACD. MACD confirmed the new high here, ADX doing the same thing. And then we go to the weekly chart, and we've gone through this corrective period where we did go to a minor new low, but there's zero strength based on the sellers. And the ADX reflects both buyers and selling strength. And the red line is a reflection of the sellers. And if you notice, this is a 25 line. It's showing that during this decline that we had, that the sellers couldn't even get above this 25 line, which is a key line that tells us whether there's a trend in place or not. So the fact is that we've worked our way to the downside and we don't have a lot of selling strength. So I really like to see that. Now, when I go to the daily chart, I would like to see this kind of get back up through this little resistance zone up here around 155. But we've got strong ADX on the monthly chart, low ADX on the weekly, and low ADX on the daily. So when I see these two time frames with low ADX, I'm looking for breakout patterns. And the overall pattern really looks attractive. The other thing I'd point out is that although this did make a minor new low here versus the June low, look at what this is doing relative to its 18-month. It's well above a rising 18-month line. I think that's really bullish. Let's go to the second stock. This is Arista Networks, ANET. Now, this has the same qualities with this 18-month line rising, right, above a rising 40. And we have good qualities based on the ADX. We had confirmation on a MACD basis on the way up. And now we've gone through this corrective pattern where, again, there was some selling strength back here in the June bottom. But since that's taken place and we've gone sideways longer, the ADX has really dropped off and showing the sellers really aren't that strong. Notice also how the MACD is turning the trend. It broke the trend line and then came back and tested the zero line and has turned back up. So I really like the looks of this. So if you look at this bottom, so this is the June low, look at how we're making a significantly higher bottom relative to that. The relative strength line is actually breaking out and hitting new highs. So very good qualities here. I think for a tech stock, this is pretty impressive what this is doing. Would I like to see a little bit more confirmation above this peak here in August? I would. I mean, I would like to see that. But the overall pattern, I think, looks really attractive. Let's look at Cintas, CTAS. So again, now if we go back into this chart over here, notice how we made a low early in the year. And while the S&P has got something like this going, right, this is actually forming just a sideways pattern in the most recent low, significantly higher. Notice how the 18-month line, which is this big green line, is actually rising through this period. And look at what the relative strength line is showing us. Now, I really like the looks of this because look at how this is cupped around above the 18-month line. So the 18-month has acted as support through this whole correction phase. And yeah, the MACD has turned down like this, but notice how this is a low, a key low, and this is a key low. And we're making a higher bottom based on those bottoms, right? But on MACD, we're actually making a lower bottom. This is what I call reverse divergence. And we have that taking place on the monthly chart. Now, I mean, it doesn't take too much. You can see this pattern. It's almost like an inverted head and shoulders pattern. Again, not a lot of strength in the sellers through this whole period. And now we're starting to break out above this resistance. So I really like the overall look in this. I think the industrial space has some really interesting patterns developing. It's shown some pretty good strength here recently. Now, last thing I want to point out is we have low ADX on the weekly chart, but notice how the ADX is starting to improve. We've got a rising blue line and green showing the strength of the buyers is breaking out again. So any kind of minor weakness here I think would be definitely worth taking a look at. Let's look at NDAQ, the Nasdaq, and just look at the price structure. Yes, it made a lower low here with the market, but then as the market made a new bottom back just recently, look at the significantly higher bottom that put itself back up through its 18-month line before it rolled over. So I view that as being pretty bullish. And then we can just kind of draw a trend line and say, okay, we have broken the trend line. We've come back and tested, and now we're coming back up through this prior peak up here. And again, look at this relative strength action. So the sellers were actually pretty strong here. So that's why I want to see a little bit more confirmation in this type of pattern. We're seeing that now by going to a higher high. Look for any kind of a pullback here. I think just in the short term, it's a little ahead of itself on the short term. You can see it based on how far away it is from its 18-day moving average. But again, we'll look at the strength that's taking place in the ADX. We've got, I just want to zero in on this for a second. You see how this was a low ADX pattern where ADX stayed low through this whole phase. And now we're starting to see that blue line, this ADX cross back above 25 based on the green line, which is the buyers. So when I see that, I'm definitely interested. And if I can see this take place by itself, I'm interested. But when I know I have supporting evidence of the monthly and the weekly underneath me, I feel like this is a really interesting pattern. Now, I mean, one of the things that I'd suggest is that if you have to determine how you want to play these. If you're looking for, if you think the market has made a major low, which I'm still at a question mark on that. I don't know that we've made a bear market bottom as much as I think this is an intermediate term move. That could have some legs to it through maybe into the early next year. And so what I want to do is I'd probably want to take advantage of a pullback on the daily chart and play this as an intermediate term swing move that has kind of like, I'm looking for a pretty good move. I mean, I'm not talking about a trade that I'm only in for a couple days. I think this could last weeks. But do I really want to get in this for the start of a new bull market? That I'm sort of questioning, so it's a purely personal thing. As long as you're paying attention to how much you're risking per trade, there's nothing wrong with doing a trade off the weekly chart and playing it for a bigger move. The way I would accomplish that is put the trade on, get yourself a minor profit, go to a break even, and then see if this wants to turn into something more important. All right, let's go to Ryder. Now, again, we can look at this pattern going sideways up here on the weekly chart. You see how this has just been a sideways consolidation? Relative strength is hitting new highs. Really like the looks of that. Because it's a low ADX pattern on monthly, weekly, and daily, we want a breakout, and we're getting that taking place right here, crossing back above all these peaks for the year. So I'm sort of attracted by that. Notice how the MACD is starting to climb here. The qualities here I think are pretty attractive, especially when you take into account what I focused in on this. I'm looking at either a low ADX condition that looks like we're breaking out of, or a strong ADX condition where we're pulling back on a weekly chart. So strong ADX on the monthly, and then we're pulling back on a weekly. But I also want to make sure I've got relative performance on my side, and I'm looking at these patterns that are making higher bottoms or being resilient relative to the market. So I hope you enjoyed this segment. you can contact me through LinkedIn, Twitter, or find my research on rabelstockresearch.com. In addition, if you'd like to learn more about trend, MACD, and ADX in multiple timeframes, I have a trend and momentum course, which you can be found at rabelstockresearch.com/services, and that delves into this subject. Have a great trading day, and I'll see you next time.
Hey guys, Dave Keller here with StockCharts.com. Thanks so much for watching our video. If you enjoyed it, and we hope you did, hit the like button right below. Also, we have so much new content every day. Consider subscribing to the channel. Just hit the subscribe button in the video or right below. Thanks for watching. Stay safe. Have a fantastic day.